Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Jaya Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Punjabi Hari Jaya Punjabi Hari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Punjabi Hari Jaya Jaya Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Punjabi Hari Gopi Jannavalabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari Gopi Jannavalabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Yashoda Nandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Yashoda Nandana Jaya Braja Janaranjana Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Punjabi Hari Jaya Punjabi Hari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Punjabi Hari Jaya Jaya Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Punjabi Hari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Damodar Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Priva Jakacharya Stottara Sata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Priva Jakacharya Stottara Sata Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Nitya Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Devamrita Swamini Tanamani Pachaya Purva Lakshmana Bhakta Charma Vinata Parartha Tapikana Nimisasami Chaitanya Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Tanamani Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th Canto, Chapter 9, text number 48.
Prabhu, we are scheduled to do 46 and 47.
Okay, I've been told by Parijata Mataji to do text 48. Can I do all of them?
Sure, but we did 45 yesterday.
Okay, 46, 47. Maybe she's got a schedule. She might have told Hari Chakraprabhu gives class tomorrow that he's on 49, so I should probably do 48. If that's all right with you, Prabhu. So I'll start from text 46. Shri Shuka Uvacha Attaivam idito rajan sadaram tridashayar hari swam upasthanam akarnya prahatan abhinandita. Shri Shukadev Goswami continued, O King Parikshit, when the demigods offered the Lord their sincere prayers in this way, the Lord listened by his causeless mercy. Being pleased, he then replied to the demigods. Text 47. Shri Bhagavan Pritoham Vasara Shrestha Madhupasthana Vidyaya Atmaishvarya Smriti Pungsam Bhaktishchaiva Yaya Mai. Suppose we should do the word for word here, since this is the Lord speaking. It's important. Shri Bhagavan the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, Pritaha, pleased, aham, I, vaha, of you, Sura Shreshtaha, O best of the demigods. Mat upasthana vidyaya, by the highly advanced knowledge and prayers offered unto me. Atma Aishvarya Smriti, remembrance of the exalted transcendental position of me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pungsam, of men. Bhakti, devotional service. Cha, and. Eva, certainly. Yaya, by which. Mai, unto me. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Sri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O beloved demigods, you have offered your prayers to me with great knowledge, and I am certainly most pleased with you. A person is liberated by such knowledge, and thus he remembers my exalted position, which is above the conditions of material life. Such a devotee is fully purified by offering prayers in full knowledge. This is the source of devotional service. Purport. Another name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Uttama Shloka, which means that he has offered prayers with selected verses. Bhakti means Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, chanting and hearing about Lord Vishnu. Impersonalists cannot be purified, for they do not offer personal prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even though they sometimes offer prayers, the prayers are not directed toward the Supreme Person. Impersonalists sometimes show their incomplete knowledge by addressing the Lord as being nameless. They always offer prayers indirectly, saying, "You are this, you are that." But they do not know to whom they are praying. A devotee, however, always offers personal prayers. A devotee says, "Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami." I offer my respectful obeisances unto Govinda, unto Krishna. That is the way to offer prayers. If one continues to offer such personal prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is eligible to become a pure devotee and return home back to Godhead. Nice. So we'll do the next verse as well on the order of Parijata Mataji. Text number 48 says, Kim durapam mai prite tatapi vibhudarshabha maye kanta matir nanyan matovanchati tatvavit. Kim, what? Durapam, difficult to obtain. Mai, when I, prite, satisfied. Tatapi, still. Vibhudarishab, O best of the intelligent demigods. Mai, in me. Ekanta, exclusively fixed. Mati, whose attention, not anyat, not anything other. Mataha, than me. Vanchati, desires. Tatvavit, one who knows the truth. Again, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. O best of the intelligent demigods, although it is true that nothing is difficult for one to obtain when I am pleased with him, a pure devotee whose mind is exclusively fixed upon me does not ask me for anything but the opportunity to engage in devotional service. Purport. When the demigods finished offering their prayers, they anxiously waited for their enemy Vritrasura to be killed. This means that the demigods are not pure devotees. Although without difficulty, one can get anything he desires if the Lord is pleased. The demigods aspire for material profit by pleasing the Lord. The Lord wanted the demigods to pray for unalloyed devotional service, but instead they prayed for an opportunity to kill their enemy. This is the difference between a pure devotee and a devotee on the material platform. Indirectly, the Lord regretted that the demigods did not ask for pure devotional service. Krishna, Krishna. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Vinati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Cha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suttadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna consciousness. So in these verses, we're hearing the Lord throwing shade, as the kids say, by putting the demigods in their place, reminding them, what does pure devotional service look like? You've offered all these nice prayers, and those prayers are full of knowledge, and that knowledge and praying brings one to the level of devotional service, right? A person becomes liberated by that sort of knowledge, rises above the conditions of material life, becomes purified by offering prayers and knowledge, and then devotional service. Because devotional service means pure devotional service. And he's reminding the demigods, you're making all these nice prayers, but you have some intention in mind. You want me to come and do something about this. Vritrasara. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, devotional service is not cheap and easy. Right? What is that verse? That samasarveshu bhuteshu samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. Can't remember the first line, but he says that the qualification to actually engage in devotional service is first to see all living entities equally, to be fully satisfied without any hankering or desire, and to be a friend of all living entities. Samasarveshu bhuteshu, Krishna consciousness. Hold on, it's such a great verse. Samasarveshu. Thank God for all these apps since our... Oh, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, na shochati na kankshati, samasarveshu bhuteshu, mad bhaktim labhate param. As Krishna is saying, this is the requirement to engage in devotional service. First, to realize the absolute truth as Brahman, that there's an all-pervasive spiritual reality of which we're a part, which can be understood by logic and reason alone. And then being completely free from hankering and desire or lamentation, and to see all living entities equally, then one can engage in devotional service. That's Krishna's requirement. That's like step one, Brahman realization. Step two, completely free from hankering and lamentation. Step three, treating all living entities equally. Then devotional service. That's Krishna's requirement. And he's a person. Just like we have boundaries in relationships, Krishna has his boundaries. And so when these demigods are praying to the Lord, they're actually asking for some material benefit. And Krishna wants to remind them, the Lord wants to remind them, this is not pure devotional service. By this process, you may come to the level of devotional service, but this is not. Which is why in the next verse, text number 48, Krishna says, well, who is this speaking? It's Narayan speaking, I think. But the Lord says that, oh, best of the intelligent demigods, to kind of remind them, because the Lord likes sarcastic humor. He says the same thing to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. After Arjuna is basically having a breakdown and is distraught about his duty to fight at the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna, enjoying the chivalrous rasa with his friend Arjuna, calls him impotent, as men are wont to do. Sometimes their expression of love is a bit of chiding and goading. So Krishna calls Arjuna impotent, klaibyam. Klaibyam, where does this impotence come from? This is not the quality of the Aryans, the great progressive spiritualists. of which you are a member, being a direct descendant, this is impotent behavior. So in this way, the Lord can speak eloquently and directly, but also with cheeky humor. So similarly, in this verse, text number 48, he says about the demigods, Tatapi vibudharashava. Oh, you're so intelligent. You're so intelligent. And you're so intelligent, but you're asking me for something which is totally unnecessary. In this way, the Lord is instructing them and guiding them towards pure devotional service. He says, if I'm pleased with someone, there's absolutely nothing that's difficult for them to obtain. And they need not ask for anything except devotional service. O best of the intelligent demigods. Similarly to Arjuna, right? Krishna says, one who is wise does not lament for the living or for the dead. In this way, he sort of pokes Arjuna in the ribs and says, this is not the behavior of a wise person. So even in these giving of instructions, even in this guidance that the Lord gives to the devotees, he does so with such finesse, such intelligence, such sensitivity, and even with humor. Because the Lord is a person, and persons enjoy a variety of emotional exchanges. And just like the Lord guided Uddhava to realize the highest potential of devotional service by sending him to Vrindavan to deliver a message, similarly, herein the Lord is going to guide the demigods by sending them to a pure devotee to learn the lesson. What does pure devotional service look like? Even now, even as Vitrasara is wreaking havoc and the demigods are praying for help, the Lord's concern is you should learn what devotional service looks like. And so he's going to send the demigods, I believe headed by Indra. Indra's going to go to Dadichi Muni. This is how the Lord instructs, right? As Prabhupada says, the mother instructs the daughter-in-law through her own daughter. So similarly, the Lord is instructing these devotees by sending them to a pure devotee. He's instructing these demigods by sending them to a pure devotee so they can see there's no need to ask for anything. For someone who is pleased, for someone with whom I am pleased, there's nothing difficult to obtain. They only ask for pure devotional service. Krishna wants to help these demigods to understand what is their potential, what is pure devotional service. There's no need to ask for anything material. And the sooner we can come to terms with this, the sooner our understanding of God can be more robust and congruent. Because the more we cultivate this attitude, this desire that I should pray to God for this thing or for that thing, and then that becomes the indicator of the strength of our relationship, the more there's always going to be problems and hypocrisy and confusion. That's not the nature of God that's described anywhere. The devotee prays for service, to be engaged in service, to experience love of God. The material things are futile anyway, like castles made of sand. Why should we bother Krishna with our little castles made out of sand? Just like a parent cannot be too concerned with a child building a sandcastle on the beach. When it's time to go, it's time to go, okay? No parent in the world is going to say, well, I guess we got to stay here now and give all of our attention to this castle made of sand. No, the parent knows it's time to move on, and this sandcastle will be destroyed regardless. The parent knows what the child really needs, what the child really wants, and provides it even without asking. The child does not need to approach the parent and say, Lord, mommy, daddy, please, I need food or I need shelter. The parent knows, and the parent provides out of love. All the child has to do is reciprocate in love. So similarly, in praying to the Lord, why waste time praying for castles made of sand? Herein, the Lord is demonstrating to these demigods, that's not pure devotional service. Although you've offered great prayers with a lot of personhood in it, addressing me personally, this brings you to the level of devotional service. But now let me show you what devotional service really looks like. And so we're going to hear in the future verses of this chapter that the Lord will guide them to go and see Dadichi Muni. I'll give a little sneak preview, if that's all right, in the rest of the chapter and the next chapter. That when they approach Dadichi Muni, the demigods, being instructed by the Lord himself, they go to Dadichi Muni and they say, Lord Narayan told us to make a weapon from your bones so that we can kill this Vitrasara. And here's Dadichi Muni. And what does he say? Immediately, yes. Sure. If that's what the Lord wants, no problem. Which means he'll have to die and leave this body. Of course, then he says so many incredible things about death. I think that's where the verse is that it's like a flash of lightning. And just try to consider the faith and service of Dadichi Muni. In this way, the Lord here, not being as concerned with Vitrasara as he is with the devotion of the demigods, achieves two purposes at once and shows them, these demigods, what does real devotional service look like? Imagine yourself in the position of Dadichi Muni, who's told by the demigods, Lord Narayan said that we should use your bones to create a weapon to kill Vitrasara, because Dadichi Muni was a great sage. He performed so much austerity. It generates a certain kind of power. I don't know all that science so well, but we know that he's got some power, some Shakti, and his body is unusual. And so there's a lot of strength and power in his bones. But the Dadichi, completely unconcerned of attachment for the body, says, absolutely. Narayan wants me to give up this body. I'm ready right now. Just be happy to serve. So happy to serve. So that takes a lot of faith, but that's what real devotion is. That's what the Lord wants these demigods to see. This is what real devotion is. To have so much faith. You could give up anything in this world, be ready to go back home, back to God at any time, and just serve, not out of concern or attachment for anything in relation to this body. So that definition of devotional service is written everywhere in our scripture. We should always hear it and remember it. Na dhanam, na jhanam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadisha kame, mama janmani janmanishvare, bhavatad bhakti rahoita gitaye. You can picture Dadichi Muni saying the exact same thing as this verse from Shikshashtaka. So I don't care about wealth, followers of this body. Maybe Dadichi Muni had some followers. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's described here in Bhagavatam. Nasundarim, beautiful women. I don't need any of that because I don't even need this body. Mama janmani janmanishvare. Birth after birth after birth. What does that mean, birth after birth? It means I don't need this body. I don't need the next body. I don't need the body after that. Any situation. I just want to serve the Lord. Ahoita gitaye. Causelessly, without any material motivation. Hetu means a material motivation. I want this, I want that. Krishna, I'll do a little bit of this, but I better get some of that in return. Here the Lord is pointing out that's not devotional service. Let me show you what devotional service looks like. And so he sends them to Dadichi Muni. Rupa Goswami makes very clear what is the definition of pure devotional service in the Nectar of Devotion, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, right? Anya abhilashita shunyam, jnana karma dhyanavritam, anukulyena krishna anushilanam bhakti rutama. Anya abhilashita, without any desire that's separate from the desire of the Lord. Anya abhilashita, without anything else. Anya means other, no other desire except for the desire of the Lord. Jnana, karma, adi, anavritam, and not being covered by jnana, some speculative knowledge by which we want to control things, or karma, the desire to get the fruits of some labor so that I can enjoy them. And he says adi. Adi means etc. in Sanskrit. So there are so many other things that is headed by jnana and karma. By so much technical knowledge, we want to be in control of things. I was just listening to Srila Prabhupada saying, what's at the root of the methodological naturalism of the scientific atheism, or the pretentious scientific atheism? It's just this desire to be in control of everything. The need to know how everything works is the desire to be in control. That has been demonstrated, especially in the last century or so, that with every advance in knowledge, there must be some technology to control it. You just come out here to Penn State and see what all of the Penn State contracts are for. Every single engineering student, every single science student, they're working on military contracts to produce some new weapon to kill somebody on the other side of the world. That's the purpose of knowledge. How can we control more? That's why it's being said, jnana karma dhyanavrita. That sort of knowledge, that propensity that I need to know everything so I can be in control. You got to give that up and just be fully congruent with the Lord's desire. So Dadichi Muni is demonstrating that. When the Lord asks, through the demigods, give your bones for this fight with Vritrasura. And Dadichi says, no problem, absolutely. This is a level of faith that we should aspire to. Just ready to give up this body entirely. Sure, if I can use this in Krishna's service, that's the point. It'd be great to be able to use this body in Krishna's service, both while living and while dead. Our bodies, unfortunately, after we leave this body, is probably not going to be used in devotional service. Probably just become food for some other creature, which I guess is good for them. But Dadichi is thinking, this is great. Use my body in devotional service. So that's a standard of devotion and faith that Lord Narayan wanted these demigods to see. It's the definition of faith that we should contemplate and consider and aspire for. As described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, what is faith? Shraddha Shabde Vishvashakahe Sudrida Nishchaya Krishna Bhakti Hoila Sarva Karma Kritahaya. Shraddha means the conviction that simply by serving Krishna, Sarva Karma Kritahaya, everything else is taken care of. I don't need anything else. I don't have to do anything else. Here's Dadichi Muni demonstrating for all of us, because I don't know about all of you, but I'm definitely not at that level yet. I think, no, I need to do all these other things. And then, I'll give a little something to Krishna. Throw him a bone. But the definition of faith, as described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, is the conviction that all I need is devotional service to Krishna. Everything else is taken care of. So here Narayan, he wants these demigods to get that. Although they offer nice prayers full of knowledge, he says, this is great prayers, right? And you become liberated by that knowledge, and you remember my exalted position, and rise above the conditions of material life, and become purified. And then maybe you can do devotional service. And so, you demigods, you're very intelligent. Viduvarishab. So, since you're intelligent, you go and talk to Dadichi Muni and see what devotional service is. So this is the remarkable ability of Lord Narayan, that he can deal with this Vritrasura situation very simply, but most importantly, engage these demigods in devotional service by seeing what pure devotional service looks like and reciprocating with Dadichi Muni. So amazing things going on every time the Lord is involved. Amazing lessons for all of us to learn, and to inch ourselves closer towards pure devotional service. At least me, I'm on the inching program. Maybe some of you Prabhus are on the running, the leaps and bounds program. I'm on the inchworm program. How the inchworm takes one step forward, but then has to I don't know, should I take that other step and move back? It's like, I'm taking my time. But by continuously hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we will come closer towards pure devotional service, which reconciles all of the confusion and doubt about our relationship with the Lord, our situation in this world. Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is the remedy for all of that illusion. It's even the remedy for great demigods. If even great demigods are benefiting from this, what to speak of us? Even great demigods need to come to a higher level. They need to improve in their devotional service. So what to speak of us? Hare Krishna. Really interesting pastime. I'm really excited for the next chapter about the Dadichi Muni, in which Srila Prabhupada will describe some of that in the purports in more detail. The faith and conviction of Dadichi to just absolutely use my body in the Lord's service. Great. And he just gives up his body like that. Go for it. So we should all be so prepared if the Lord should ask us to give up our body. Hare Krishna. Believe it or not, I'd like to stop here because, well, I guess I can ask if there's any questions or comments on this before we move on, but I did want to take a few minutes to say a little something about a dear, I don't know if I could call him a friend. He's certainly my well-wisher, devotee who passed away recently in Vrindavan. Some of you may have heard of His Holiness Bhakti Vishwambha Madhava Maharaj, whom I had a lot of personal time with. And I wanted to share a few things about him since he has departed this world, if that's all right. But perhaps first, does anyone have any comments or retorts or even questions about the Bhagavatam? No?
I have a few thoughts, but I don't want to disrupt the flow of nectar.
No. I only have a few things to say about Maharaj. So please, if you'd like to add something, Tarika Prabhu.
Well, if you insist. I don't know. I'm just, you're speaking about the sincere and pure desire of Dadichi Muni that he just simply wanted to serve Krishna by any means, with no ulterior motive. And it brings to mind the extraordinarily pure devotion of the gopis, who, upon hearing that Krishna had a headache and that the only means to relieve his headache was the dust of the feet of the gopis, anyone else or his devotee, and of course, no one would want to have the dust of their feet on Krishna's head, but the gopis didn't hesitate. They were immediately prepared to do whatever was going to relieve Krishna's discomfort. So, all very inspiring and instructive stories. And this is why we love Srimad Bhagavatam so much. The spotless Purana, always directing us towards pure devotional service. Other shastras, you can become diverted by other avenues of endeavor, but Srimad Bhagavatam always directs us towards pure devotional service. Very nice thing. Anyway, that's what was on my mind. Hare Krishna. Thank you for very nicely articulating this message of pure devotion. That's Srimad Bhagavatam. Very nice. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Tarika. I just parrot what I've heard and trying to understand from Srila Prabhupada. I'm as far away from pure devotion as can be, unfortunately. But yeah, it's a great comparison. We all love that story of I think it was Narada Muni going around asking for the dust of different devotees' feet to place on Krishna's head for his headache, and only the gopis are like, absolutely. And if we should go to hell and suffer for this offense of placing the dust of our feet on Krishna's head, it doesn't matter as long as the Lord is cured of his headache. So if we don't hear these examples, how will we ever aspire for devotional service? Otherwise, we'll just be like so many religionists, sincere as they may be, but like the demigods, they just think of an exchange relationship with God. As long as I'm getting this, as long as I'm getting that, prosperity theology and all that sort of stuff. People are tired of that hypocrisy. The standard set in Srimad Bhagavatam is remarkable, and we should really consider, why is it different from run-of-the-mill religiosity? Hare Krishna. So thank you, Tarikapu. If it's all right, there's just a few minutes, but I really just wanted to, perhaps for my own therapy, to share a little something about His Holiness Bhakti Vishramba Madhava Maharaj, who's left his body recently in Vrindavan. But I wonder if anybody here has even met him. Have you met him, Tarika Prabhu? Are you familiar with Maharaj?
Oh yes,
Okay.
yeah, we've interacted. He's been to my home, spent an evening speaking wonderfully,
Yes.
glorifying different devotees that he knew from Vrindavan, and the whole time he was very anxious about his deity, because it had gotten very late. The nectar was flowing in buckets, and got to be very late in the evening, and he hadn't performed his final puja, and he wasn't sure what to do. He was in anxiety. Anyway, his association was wonderful.
Yes.
That's such an extraordinary personality. Just to hear a few words from him was so uplifting.
Yes.
Wonderful
Extraordinary
personality.
Is an unusual personality, and it'd be hard to describe him to those who have never met His Holiness Bhakti Vishramba Madhava Maharaj. I might have to imitate his accent a little bit, but out of complete respect, just to try to make clear just how eccentric and unusual, but absolutely immersed in spontaneous devotion was His Holiness Bhakti Vishramba Madhava Maharaj, who is very important for us to remember because he was also on the Radha Damodar traveling bus party for some time. He told me personally that when he joined the devotees at the age of 15 years old and ran away from home, lived in the temple, which was very controversial and illegal, but he would lie about his age, as was common for a lot of devotees, so that he could be with the devotees and serve with them. So he was very young. Even in the very young community of Vaishnavas, he was even younger. And he just begged and begged and begged to be on the Radha Damodar traveling bus party with Vishnu Jan Swami and with Tamal Krishna Maharaj. And I had a lot of time to hear from Maharaj. He was very, very eccentric, very interesting person. But he would tell me about how being on the traveling bus party, he was not very good at book distribution because he's just, how do I say this respectfully? He's just such an unusual character. It's almost off-putting. It's like, that's kind of a funny shape. He's like stocky. He's got that really strong Brooklyn accent. Brooklyn, forget about it. And he'd be out there trying to do books. And he told me that he would be trying to do book distribution because Prabhupada loved it. He just tried his best, but he was so bad at it. And what he would do is he'd get this hearing aid. It was like this little device he would put in his ear, and he'd be listening to Prabhupada's lectures all day, every day, even while he's on books. And he'd say it was very hard for him to distribute books because he was listening to Srila Prabhupada in his ear. And so even when he'd try to stop somebody to give them a book, they'd be saying, "Are you okay? Do you have a hearing aid? Can you hear me?" Or they say, "Do you have a hearing problem?" And he'd say, "Yes, yes, I got a hearing problem. I got to hear. I got to hear more." He's just such an ecstatic hearer and chanter about Krishna's pastimes, especially. In fact, one time I saw him giving Srimad Bhagavatam class in New Varshana in New Zealand, and he was giving a Srimad Bhagavatam class, and he's just like a very animated, eccentric person. He was talking about Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys and how they're playing in the forest, and he was getting all worked up, and all of us there were again kind of uncomfortable. He can make devotees a little uncomfortable because he's a very eccentric person and very loud and just extremely energetic. And he was giving a Srimad Bhagavatam class, he was talking about some pastimes about Krishna and Balaram, and how, Arjuna Saka, then he said this to Krishna, and then Balaram came over and he said that to Krishna, and then Subala said this, and then Krishna did that. And I swear to God, dear devotees, I swear, I saw the tears shoot from his eyes. And I thought, I read these descriptions about tears shooting from the eyes, and I thought, that's just some sort of poetry. And then I saw Bhakti Vishramva Madhava Maharaj become so worked up talking about Krishna and the cowherd boys and how they're playing in Vrindavan, that the tears shot forward from his eyes, like onto the floor in front of him. And he was screaming about how Krishna is saying like this, and Balaram is saying like that, and he screamed until he cried and just became completely silent. And he just said, "That's it. Bhagavatam class is over." And he just jumps up out the Vyasasan and walks out of the room. And this is like a daily affair with Bhakti Vishramva Madhava Maharaj. It's just an amazing experience to be around him. He's so different from my spiritual master in terms of their attitude. One time he was telling me this because His Holiness Devamrita Swami invited him to one of our year-end festivals in New Zealand. He always invites a special guest. And one year, Bhakti Vishramva Madhava Maharaj came, and I was his personal servant for the whole time, just helping him and assisting with all these things. And Maharaj said to me, "Me and your Guru Dev, we're totally different. We're totally different. He's Gambhira. Gambhira means grave. Gurudev especially, even more so at that time. His Holiness Devamrita Swami is very grave, very authoritative." Bhakti Vishramva Madhava Maharaj, he just had this like childlike simplicity in pure devotional service. We'd be crossing the street. He was in New Zealand. We're going to the men's ashram to do some program or something, and there's this highway. It's like 6 lanes on this side and 6 lanes on that side. And Maharaj, he's always in Vrindavan. He thinks like this is Vrindavan. He just starts walking across this highway. He sticks his hand out, and all these cars are screeching to a halt, honking on their horns. He's like, hey, I'm walking. He's just crossing this street. He always had this like blissful naivety about what was going on in the world, which is because of being so absorbed in devotional service. His spontaneous devotion was something that was just wild to see. In fact, his very name means, Bhakti Vishramva Madhava Maharaj, means a mood of devotion that's free from reverence. Very aptly named, because he always had this spontaneous, childlike devotion about him. One time I came to him to assist him in his service of his deities, as Taraka Prabhu was mentioning. He worshipped deities of Krishna and Balaram, Govardhan Shilas. And it was in New Zealand. I came to bring him something for the service of his deities. And I went into his room and I was looking for him. I said, where did Maharaj go? Where is he? And there's this table that we brought for him, a desk, so that he could serve his deities. But for whatever reason, he was on the floor underneath the table. He had all the like paraphernalia and stuff up here, but he was on the floor underneath the table with his Krishna and Balaram Govardhan Shilas. And I come in, reverentially, and I say, Maharaj, I brought some fruits or something. I can't remember what I brought. Something for your lords. And he goes, "Psst, come here." So I come up to him. I said, "Yes, Maharaj, how can I serve you?" He says, "Psst, closer, come closer." So I get even closer. I'm like underneath the table with him. He says, "Come closer." And I get underneath this table. I said, "Yes, Maharaj, how may I serve you and Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram?" And he picks up his Krishna Govardhan Shila, which is probably about the size of a softball, massive. And he just goes, bam! And he smacks me on the head with this Govardhan Shila very hard. And then he picks up Balaram and he does the same thing. Bam! And he puts the lords down and he's just cracking up laughing. Now you got the special mercy. You're getting the special mercy today. Just everything he did was just so wild and unexpected. I made some sandalwood paste for him to put onto his deities, and I put the saffron and all this sort of stuff, and he painted the faces on his lords. And he had this like pink woman's hairdryer, and he just turns on the hairdryer and puts it and sets it down right in front of the Lord so that it's blowing on their faces to dry the chandan that he put on their faces. And then while that's going on, he started telling some stories. He tell me stories about what's happening down in the bushes by the bank of the Jamuna, from some scripture that I've never heard of. I say, Maharaj, I don't think I'm allowed to listen to this. If you tell me these things about what Radha and Krishna are doing and who's touching who and in what way and what are the flavors and all this sort of stuff. I said, Maharaj, this is over my head. I can't listen to this. Oh, that's actually when he told me, me and your Gurudev are totally different. I said, Maharaj, I can't hear this sort of stuff. He was a very ecstatic, spontaneous person. And just want to say a little something about his quality of devotion. He's certainly in no way proud or arrogant, despite being very spontaneous, despite being very raganuga. In the worship of his deities, His Holiness Bhakti Vishrambha Madhava Maharaj would worship the Lords, and then he'd worship, Srila Prabhupada, his spiritual master, and the Guru Parampara, and then he would worship about 40 or 50 of his god brothers and god sisters, literally with pictures of them in little frames, just like we might have pictures of Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and usually that's it. We might do 2 or 3 or 4 members of the Guru Parampara. Bhakti Vishrambha Madhava Maharaj, he'd worship the Lord and all of his god brothers and god sisters with pictures. He'd doing the arati, offering the flowers. There was like 50 of them in his traveling altar. All these different pictures of all of his god brothers and god sisters, and he's worshiping them daily. It's a remarkable devotion. Bhakti Vishrambha Madhava Maharaj, he would only eat whatever was offered to his deities of Krishna and Balaram. He wouldn't eat anything else, at least for some time when I was with him in New Zealand, when he would come there. And so we invited him to our brahmachari ashram. We told him we'll make him a huge feast. And he came, but he would only eat whatever was offered to his deities of Krishna and Balaram. And I was really ecstatic I was excited to try to get the special mercy from Maharaj, because I really liked him a lot. And so I made this nice prasadam. I can't quite remember what it was. But he brought his deities, and we were cooking all day to make this really nice feast. And of course he came, but these transcendental, spontaneous characters, he's like eating. He's not really a big concern for him. So he just starts talking about pastimes of Krishna and Balaram and what it's like to be in Vrindavan. He's such a Vrindavan Bhav sort of person. Of course, everyone knows him as an incredible devotee of Tulasi, Vrinda Devi. That's all he would talk about. It's Tulasi, Vrinda Devi, and how Vrinda Devi serves in Vrindavan. And it's like I can't even repeat a lot of the things that he would say. This remarkable thing. So he would just go on talking and talking and talking. And it'd take hours before it'd be done, before he could actually offer the prasad, the bhoga offering to his lords and take prasadam. And I tried to give him extra prasadam on his plate so that I could try to eat some remnants, as is the style, the mood set by Narada Muni. But he would eat all of the prasadam off of his plate, while he's talking, of course. We're all sitting there, we're all finished, and he's taking a long time. He's eat because he's talking at the same time. He ate all of the prasadam off of his plate. He took his plate clean while sitting there, never missing a beat in his Krishna Katha, licking his plate clean, and then with a cup of water, pouring it on his plate while still talking about Krishna and Balaram's pastimes, washes the plate, pours it back into the cup, drinks all that water, literally not a scrap of remnant. This is just how he operated. You couldn't even smell any prasadam on the plate. It was clean by the time he walked away. So I was always very disappointed that I couldn't get his Mahaprasad in this way. But the most remarkable thing, I'll finish. Oh, there's the other thing, and then the most remarkable thing. That one time I saw him worshiping his deities, and he took off his clothes to do something. Maybe he was showering, and his body is just completely covered in tattoos of Sanskrit verses. Besides all the tilak tattooed in the various places, except for his forehead, and under each tilak, the corresponding name of the Lord. There's also like shlokas everywhere, just tattooed onto his body. So many shlokas. Down his back, on his legs, across his arms, just everywhere, shlokas. And I'm sure I asked him what they mean, but I can't even remember what he said. He just had all sorts of incredible Sanskrit verses, just literally covered in it. He has some power, some mystical power, because the first time I met him, I got to be honest, the first time I met him, he came in to give a class at New Varshana in New Zealand. And I was a relatively new devotee at the time. And, I kind of had this conception of my mind of what an advanced devotee is supposed to look like. And, what is a proper bhakti? When like you're kind of new in bhakti, you look at all the kind of external things, the superficial things, not really understanding the essence yet. So I was very much in that mindset. And so when I saw His Holiness Bhakti Vishrama Madhava Maharaj come in and sit down on the Vyasasan to give class at the temple in New Zealand at New Varshana, I thought like it was a joke. She just walks in, he just sits down, no prayers or anything. He goes, all right, questions and answers. You got questions, I got answers. Who's first? This is how he starts the class, right? And I'm like, is this some sort of joke? Is this April Fool's? I never met anybody like this. Is this some April Fool's prank or something? Who is this person? He's got kind of this funny shaped head. He just looked like some sort of character. And I had a lot of doubt. The first time I saw him, a lot of doubt. Like, who could this possibly be? This is a joke. This is an insult that this person would come up here and like pretend to be a devotee. This just seems totally inappropriate. But he was going on for a while, and as he was speaking, he's doing a class where it's just kind of questions and answers. But I was cultivating this mood in my head, like of actually some animosity towards him, because I thought he was making a mockery of what Krishna consciousness is supposed to be. But he kept going on for some time, and as I was thinking about this, I had some real doubt. How does someone even know what is a pure devotee? How can the spiritual master know? Now, what was the doubt I had in my head? It's something like, as I was thinking about him and his character and how strange he was, I had some doubt about, well, what it means to be a spiritual master, because he had disciples, and I had only known the character that I'd seen in my spiritual master, His Holiness Devamrita Swami. And so then I was kind of challenged by the contrast, and I felt some doubt about how the spiritual master is actually qualified and how they serve their disciples. And so I was really like stewing in this. Actually, it was really affecting me a lot as he was speaking because of how strange he was. And so eventually, during this lecture that I was doing, he just looked straight at me. There must have been 300 people. The New Varshana temple is quite big, and there was a lot of devotees there. He just looked straight at me. He said, you've got a question, don't you? And I was like, I don't want to ask this person any question. I don't even know what it is. He said, I know you've got a question. I'm looking at you. He literally just read my mind. I'm telling you, Prabhus, it was a mystical experience. He just read my mind. He knew exactly what it is that I was stewing about. And he just said straight up, I'll tell you. How is the spiritual master qualified? How do they know? And he just gave this incredible answer about the Lord as the super soul in the heart, how the super soul can guide the spiritual master to assist in the service of his devotees without me even having to say anything. Bhakti Vishrama Madhava Maharaj, he had and he demonstrated right there exactly what he was saying about how the Lord as the super soul in the heart can guide the guru to serve their students, their disciples, so expertly. He just did it. Even without me asking the question, he gave an answer while also doing that thing that was his answer. And so from that moment, it's just like who is this incredible personality? His Holiness Bhakti Vishrama Madhava Maharaj. And then from then on, of course, having the opportunity to serve him and seeing his incredible ecstatic devotion really just changed my life in incredible ways. When you see a devotee crying like that, with tears literally pouring from the eyes, not just one or two, but the like soaked in tears because of such ecstatic love for Radha and Krishna, for Krishna and Balaram. Those are his particular Ishtadevas. You just It reconciles all of your doubts, all of your confusion, all of your misapprehension, and just makes clear what is the absolute goal of life. His Holiness Bhakti-Vishramana Maharaj was really an amazing, amazing devotee. It's a great loss that he's no longer here serving. Oh, wow, time's really going on. I wanted to say some more about his traveling with Radha Damodar party and how he'd make prasadam and how he was actually the one that caused the bus to light on fire one time. Some of you know that story. It's just such spontaneous, ecstatic love for Krishna. It was what he was always doing. And it was really amazing to hear that expression of love from him, to see the ecstatic symptoms, which he was not very good at hiding because, he's a very simple, straightforward person. And as his name suggests, he's just very free from awe and reverence. Awe and reverence was not his bhava. His bhava is just picking up Krishna and hitting people in the head with Krishna so that you feel the ecstatic love. So it's a great loss that he's finally left this world. It's unfortunate that during the end of his life, he, I don't know if it was actually biologically caused, some sort of dementia was going on, or this was some madness of ecstatic love. But in any way, in Vrindavan, of course, during his last days, he was cogent and chanting with the devotees until he finally departed. It was a few weeks ago. Unfortunately, never wrote any books, but there are some recordings. I do recommend, if you get a chance, you try to hear some of His Holiness Bhakti-Vishramana Madhava Maharaj, so that we can know very clearly what spontaneous devotional service looks like. Hare Krishna. I didn't even do justice to Maharaj. He was really just such a special, incredible person, but I just had to share a little bit because I know some devotees probably never met him, unfortunately. He's just such a far out character. This doesn't fit into any archetype or expectation of what's supposed to happen. And yet, when those tears of love of God came out, it was very clear that devotion is always so much more than we think we know. Always. So I'm so indebted and grateful to what little time I've had with His Holiness Bhakti-Vishramana Madhava Maharaj. Tulsi Maharaj, they sometimes call him. He's a very, very ecstatic devotee. Hare Krishna. All glories to His Holiness Bhakti-Vishramana Madhava Maharaj. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, who was attracted and inspired such a diverse plethora of great devotees. And all glories to the King of Books, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Thank you for listening, devotees. Sorry, a little bit over time. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for telling us about your experiences with Maharaj. It was so delightful to hear.
He was a delightful person. Delightful is a perfect word for Maharaj. Yes.
It really is a dreadful loss. His disappearance is, my God, it's terrible for us. Quick question: Did you ever witness him having conversations with his deities?
Yes. Yes, that's right. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, he would like talk to them. Sometimes it'd be murmuring, sometimes it'd be talking loud. Sometimes it'd be, again, Vishramba Bhava. It's free from reverence. And we should not imitate any of this, obviously. But he would be like saying things to them like out of anger and like be talking to himself. It's just wild. But the symptoms of ecstatic love were very clear. Someone might look at him and think this person's crazy. Okay. God consciousness cannot be synonymous with madness. But when you see the symptoms of ecstatic love, then you know this is something beyond normal consciousness. So yes, I can't even get into all the things that he would say. A lot of it was just beyond me and hasn't even stuck in my memory because he was just on a different platform.
Well,
Very,
I'm very
special.
happy that you got a chance to witness some of the mood of his relationship with his deities, because not everyone gets to see something like that even in their entire lifetime, but it's pretty special. What an extraordinary personality. Yeah, madness in Krishna consciousness.
Madness, yes.
It's
Madness.
wonderful.
It's
Something
very good in
to
Vrindavan. Yeah.
Something to aspire for. Yeah, he's an example of he's the full manifestation of the result of the practice of Krishna consciousness. This is what Srila Prabhupada is offering to all of us, and we just have to take the process seriously. It's a wonderful thing. Boy,
Like Narada Muni says to Yudhishthir about the result of chanting purely, Unmadavan Nrityati Lokabhaya. Such a person, they dance, they chant, they laugh and cry like a crazy person, Unmadavan, like someone who's mad. And Lokabhaya, without any consideration of the opinion of anybody else. And that was Maharaj. He was just mad in ecstatic love. Hare Krishna, not to be imitated, of course. Not that you could anyway. I mean, you can't imitate that sort of thing. We can just hope to someday see a glimpse of some of that madness in great devotees. So thank you, Tiger Prabhu, for also sharing your experience with them. Thank you, dear devotees, for listening. Sorry for holding you over time. I also got to go.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.